Hello class, I'm here today to talk with you about something that's really basic to honest practice of statistics. So the topic here is the 6 steps of a formal statistical test. And again, we're trying to be honest and upright in the way in which we are engaging in this practice. This really comes from our concern all semester about doing statistics in an honest manner. We want to use statistics so that we're getting at the truth, or maybe that truth is very tough to determine, but as close as we can determine it, we want to be there. We don't want to be giving results like, what answer do you want? I will get it for you. That's not the point. This is about actually doing a statistical test to determine what is really going on in a situation. So the idea that is pervasive throughout the 6 steps is just making decisions before that decision can skew the outcome or skew our judgment. 6 steps of a formal statistical test. The first step, formulate the hypotheses first. This is the most basic decision that we can make. This guides the rest of our testing. So we're getting at the answer to the question, what are we testing for? And so at this point, we need to select both a null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis. And everything else follows from that. Number 2, select a test statistic. We need to understand what the options are. And so that's really what this entire semester and this class is about, is understanding the options. So once you have that complete toolkit, or at least a really big toolkit, then you can dig into that toolkit and you can say, what is the best tool that I can select out of all of the available tools that fits the particular situation that I'm talking about statistic. Step 3, select the significance level. So do we need a given significance level? Just thinking about a discussion that we've had and will have in class, significance level of 0.01 would equate with a situation where perhaps people could die if we come up with a wrong answer. So 0.01 is pretty rigorous. 0.05 or 0.10 are getting to situations where, yes, we care, but we can be just a little bit more forgiving in our standards. At 0.01, that's a 1% chance that we are making a wrong judgment as a result of our testing. So just understanding the meaning of significance level and using that understanding to guide us in this situation. Are we talking about life-changing, life-ending, the building will collapse, that kind of thing if we make a wrong decision? Selecting the significance level between 0.01 and 0.10 is typically the range that we're talking about. Step 4, determining the critical value, definitely relies on everything that we've determined so far. We need to know the test statistic and the significance level before we get there. At that point, then we need to determine what the critical value of our statistical test actually is. We're just relying on all the information that we've already gathered and decided upon in the first steps. We get to the critical value. And only at that point, in step 5, do we calculate the test statistic itself. We don't do the test statistic first and then think about the critical value, because that introduces, just for one example, a source of bias. We always want to determine the critical value first. That's the judgment side. And then step 5 is a calculation. And unless we just flat out use SPSS or our own calculation incorrectly, we're going to find the same test statistic for the same data every single time. So step 5 isn't about a judgment. Step 5 is just about, well, okay, let's calculate this value. Step 4 is actually a judgment. And we want to make the judgments earlier rather than later. We've only got one thing left. We've got all the information at this point to make our decision. Do we accept or reject our null hypothesis? So again, we're relying on everything that we've determined as we've gone forward, but we've done these decisions, we've made these decisions in a way that the judgments that could be biased come early before we understand the nature of the problem. We make a decision based on the principles. Then later on, we're following a process where it's kind of set out for us, like it's a calculation, or at this point, making a decision, all we're doing is observing. Is one value less than the other? Is the critical value less than or greater than the calculated test statistic value? And that's the basis for our decision there. So there's no pressure by the end. And really, the entire process of a formal statistical test is to take out pressure in terms of, well, what does my boss want me to find out? What does my client want me to find? Maybe I can fudge it one way or another. And we're saying, no, that's not acceptable. We're going to find the true result, the honest result as we go along. And so that's it. Those are the 6 steps. They're not hard. They're actually pretty straightforward to follow. And if we commit to doing them in this order, then we're committing to a truthful process in statistical testing that does away with all those stereotypes about a statistician coming and saying, well, what answer do you want? I'll get that answer for you. So it's a process, it's a good process, it's a solid process for us to follow. So thanks very much.